Good evening. Welcome to the Winter City Council meeting for Tuesday, January 16th, 2024. At this time, the City of Winter will do roll call. Councilman Clay.
Here.
Councilman Hockett.
Here.
Councilman Clunt.
Here.
Councilman Schramm.
Here.
Councilman Schuyler.
Here.
And Councilman Sprinkle.
Here.
With all present and accounted for, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, having had time to review your packets, are there any conflict of interest in this evening's agendas? Hearing and seeing none, Chair will move on to this evening's consent agenda. Council, do you have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Councilman Schuyler with the motion to approve. Councilman Clunt with the second. Floor is open to comments, questions, or point of information. Hearing none, Chair will call the question. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, would you please say aye?
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it, and this motion carries. Council, having had time to review your packets, do you have a motion on this evening's agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda as written.
Is there a second to this motion?
I'll second that.
Councilman Hockett with the motion, Councilman Sprinkle with the second. Floor is open to comments, questions, or points of information. Hearing and seeing none, Chair will call the question. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as written, please say aye.
Aye.
Or the agenda, I'm sorry. I did say consent. Would you please say aye?
Aye.
My apologies. All opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it, and this motion carries. Council, as with all city council meetings, we move on to recognition of visitors and then communications. Tonight, we open a 10-minute window for public input for anybody to address the City of Winter and their aldermanic council. Is there any public input?
Good evening, everybody. I just have a kind of a question statement. I understand that there is a fire siren on the east side of the golf course. And is it out of order, not working, waiting for repairs? Don't know, don't care. Anybody?
Donna, the person that does have the answer to that question will be here. That's our Public Safety Commissioner. He's gone, but will be present here in a little bit. He can address that question.
So you want me to save this till later?
During his reports.
I didn't hear you. Do you want me to save this till later then?
No, you're fine to keep going, but
Okay.
I don't think we can get you the definitive answer you're looking for until you relax.
Okay, well, I'll still give you what I have.
Please do.
It hasn't rang since, as long as I've been home. If I'm home, I hear it, I write it down. October 7th of last year was the last time it rang. And I can hear, I'm assuming it's the one on the city building, or the police department that has the four that they just alternate. It's not very loud, but I can hear it. It did not ring on October 13. It did not ring on November 9, and it did not ring on November 30th. And I have the times of which I notified the public, or Justin, on all of those, and I never got any kind of a response. And then it rang again on January 11th at 6:14 a.m. And I did wait till later in the morning. The police department, I realize, is open all the time, but I did call them at 7:48 and just called the regular public number, reported it, and I don't know if that gets recorded, if it gets passed along. I don't have any idea. And I didn't know if there's ever been like a PSA announcement on the paper or on the radio that something was wrong with it. But in the wintertime, it's not a real big deal. Sure, if it rings, I will get up and look out my windows and make sure there isn't smoke rolling down the street and my neighbor's house is on fire, and I kind of need to wonder, because that did happen to me already since I moved to town. But in the summertime, when we got tornadoes and whatnot, it's kind of nice to know that that's going to ring if we got ugly weather coming, especially if we're on the golf course. There's just a lot of people that maybe depend on that. And I realize we're adults and we should be able to see that ugly black clouds are coming, but still, it's nice to know if there's really something in those black clouds. So I guess that's my concern. I'd just like to see that it's working or been given an answer when I give a question, I guess.
That's great.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay, thanks.
if I'm not wrong, wasn't it in the spring when we had that worked on?
When we did the test. 'cause out
Right,
at
but it
Golden
wasn't working,
Prairie,
we fixed it, I
I
thought.
had talked to Justin about the fact that that one out by Golden Prairie, probably the same one Don is talking about, did not work. He told us that they had a person come and fix that,
Right,
and I don't know how you know that it was supposed to go off if we haven't had a test alarm.
When the siren rings downtown, that one should go off unless nobody turns it on, I would think. So I
Very
hear the
good.
one, downtown, usually always during the daytime. And at night, as long as the wind isn't blowing 100 miles an hour from the north, because my bedroom's turned on the southeast side. But I usually hear it anytime, not very loud, but I always stick my head out my patio door, and if it's ringing, it's right there.
But I agree with you, Councilman, we were told that there was two of them that were
That's
not
what I-
working properly and that they were in fact fixed.
Part of our contract that we signed last year is an annual maintenance contract where they will come back and inspect these. This is good information that we can go back and check the old records, as Councilman Sprinkle has indicated in Shram. But then we can also put it on the docket to make sure that it is being fixed.
Well, I just think I can hear the downtown one, but those out in that Haley edition, I don't know if they can hear that downtown one. No boom.
depends on the wind.
Well, that's true too, south wind.
It's a great observation, and it's something that does need to be looked at.
Well, I always think if you have it, it either should work or take it down, throw it away. One of the two.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You're
thanks.
welcome. Thank you. The city of Leonard tonight has one scheduled guest. It's Trip County Fair Board Director. President. Rusty,
At least for today.
at least for today. Rusty, the podium is yours. If you'd like to address the council, you're more than free to do so. President Keenan, podium is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to let me come before you this evening. I'm here, as it says on the agenda, representing Tripp County Fair Board. First of all, I want to thank you guys for your past funding. I can tell you that that money is used for improvements and maintenance of the facility. And if any of you have been out there, we get a lot of really good compliments on our facility from people from out of town. There are many community events that are held at the Tripp County Fairgrounds. Just to list a few of them, there's a Winter High School Regional Rodeo, which brings a lot of people to town for about 3 days. Our 4-H Rodeo in July, Youth Rodeo in September. We also have the Elks Rodeo in July also. Shrine Circus comes to town in June out there. And of course, the Mid-Dakota Fair going on right now is the 4-H shooting sports, Thursdays and Monday nights out at our facility. And I don't know if any of you have ever been out there for that, but that is quite a program. The number of kids that are involved, I think it's expanded the 4-H program because of shooting sports, but it's just amazing how many kids are out there right now shooting bows and arrows and BB guns, and as they get older, they move up to bigger and better things. Some of the other things out there, just the past summer, they had the South Dakota Junior Hereford Association Field Day. That brought about 70 kids from all over the state to town, along with about 100 head of livestock. I think the South Dakota Trappers Convention's coming this year. That's usually in September. And of course, the Chambers had a couple events out there, the Sharpshooter Classic, and then in this past fall, they had the ranch bronc riding out there over Labor Day weekend, which was I think a huge success. And of course, wedding and graduation receptions. Matter of fact, Friday, write this on your calendars, the Cattle Women's Beef Fest is out there. So I'd highly recommend that you get out there early, because they normally run out of food fast.
Rusty, what is that again?
The Cattle Women's Beef Fest,
This Friday.
it's this Friday, yep. I just noticed it on our bank board today that it was on there. Again, we're proud of our fairgrounds. We work hard as a board to maintain the facilities, and we get a lot of compliments from people out of town. As a board, we submitted a projected budget for 2024 to you guys last summer. We requested $5,000 from the city to help with our operation. This is the amount we requested for many years. In our projected income, though, that also included $22,000 that we get from the county. However, they've cut their budget this year. We found out that back in October that we only get $15,000 instead of $22,000. So we're kind of disappointed over that, because obviously our cost to run the facility and in a manner that we'd like to increases every year, it seems like, for a lot of reasons. We're coming before the city today respectively requesting an additional $2,500 for this year to help offset that shortfall. We know that's still 45 short of what we normally operate on, but we're going to hopefully see if we can get by this year and see how it works. Do you guys have, anybody here have any questions at all? If not,
I don't have a question, I have a statement.
okay.
I would say that Tim would motion.
I can't speak.
Rusty, they can, once we have a motion. we'll say-
Well, yeah, again, I want to thank you guys for your time. We hope you take our request in consideration and maybe can help us out with this matter. Thank you very much.
Rusty, I've got one question. Are you asking for 5,000 plus an additional 2,500 that you was slighted?
That is correct.
Or that the
Yep.
county didn't fund this year?
Yep.
That's what you're requesting?
Yeah, they cut us back from 22,000 that they usually give us to fund.
15.
You know, that pays for the lawn mowing and a lot of other things, the janitorial services and stuff like that. And they cut us back to 15,000 for the year, so it's gonna be a struggle compared to what it's been in the past. New you guys very much.
Follow-ups, but that way.
Council, at this time, I would move to suspend the rules and go ahead and consider new business item number 1. Council, would you have a motion on new business item number 1?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to donate $5,000 to the Trip County Fair.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Councilman Clay with the motion, Councilman Hackett with the second. The floor is now open to comment or question. Councilman Clay?
So, Rusty, appreciate you submitting everything that we requested of your budget and everything in a timely manner. And as we went through our funding for our budget, we fully funded your request. And not every or all of our requests were we able to fully fund as we went through our budget. And our budget's tight and our budget's set. Understand, but that's why I'm certainly willing to do that.
And like I said, we submitted that back in the summer. We didn't know about this until October, so we thought, well, can't hurt to ask.
No. Councilman Hackett?
Was there a specific reason that you were given from the commissioners in cutting your budget, or is it in line with their total budget cuts? I know they're, anything specific?
They've never really given us a specific reason, other than they just said, you're not, this is all you get, more or less. So,
But they had been funding at the $22,000 level?
yep.
Okay.
And when I first got on that fair boat, I've been on it over 25 years now.
Yes.
Most years, early on, a lot of years we'd come up short. And then throughout the years, we've had some fundraisers like the Bonanza thing that we did for quite a few years, the ranch rodeo. and we were able to kind of build up a little nest egg to help that shortfall, but it's gotten to where most of us are at that age where we're kind of run out of steam. And so the fundraisers, plus we kind of got our hands slapped for, we actually had a little money set aside, and they said we couldn't do that well. We found the place for it, obviously, but, so it kind of left a bad taste in our mouth as far as doing something extra to help generate a little income.
The rest of council, any questions?
Is there anything outside of, since our budget is set outside that they pay the city for that we could help out with?
In-kind services is what he's talking
Yeah,
about.
there you go.
In-kind services?
Yeah, I'm just
In-kind.
thinking, I don't know. I mean, we didn't do a contingency for 2024, so it's almost impossible to add money, but in-kind services are available. And I was just,
Only thing.
and we don't even have to decide that tonight.
No, I understand.
But, you know,
No, I guess one other thing I'd like to thank you guys for you guys put in some hydrants for us last year. This gentleman right here, very, very helpful, and they did a super good job, and it was very much needed and very much appreciated. And I'm hoping they got you paid for it.
Last I looked, no, but.
The commissioner said, we'll take care of it, and I said,
They
okay.
did. I think we were waiting for their next meeting. So that was what I was gonna say. That's the only thing we've billed them in the last multiple years is for that hydrant service. And council did at that point in time, at Rusty's request, waive all labor. But they did keep on the expense of the equipment for gas and hours
Yep.
and stuff, but they did waive all labor at that time. The county has told me, Commissioner Wilcox called and had me send it directly to the auditor, that bill, because we were working out a deal, we were gonna set up a payment plan, as Rusty mentioned, they've been short in years past. Last year happened to be one of those years, and they asked if they could pay it in the 2024 budget. Had no problem working with them. But then, at the end of December, Commissioner Wilcox called and said that the county would be taking care of that bill. It has been a week since I've looked to see if it was paid. It was not paid.
And I think they've only met once since the first of the year.
Sure.
I guess myself, I'd like to look at the different income options on in-kind to offset the extra 2,500. I mean, I don't feel that it's the city's responsibility to eat the 7,000 that the county cut, but you're also not asking for 7,000.
You guys have been more than generous and very helpful, and we appreciate it very much.
So the total line that you guys have appropriated with funds is like 158,000. You do have your bullets in there for each of those different lines on what amount you could do. You're free as a council to go ahead and actually not appropriate at this point, it would be actually disperse any amount that you want to, but then you would need to make a cut in other areas. Now, that being said, council, you don't have to make a decision tonight. This is a decision that if you'd like to have a discussion with the Fair Board or President Keenan in the future, you can go ahead and disperse tonight, take a look at your budget, and bring this back and consider later. That's why we do this. It's not locked into that amount. Last year, we actually went above and beyond in a different area, knowing that our contingency was there. You can do that again here, but you would actually be forced to disperse less in another area. Is there an area? I think that's for you as a council to sit and look at and see if you can find $2,500 in there to meet that request.
Or the other option is to do like we've talked about, and we knew we'd have to do if we needed the more money as, what do you call it? Supplemental.
Supplemental is absolutely an
Yeah.
option for you as a council. It's not a decision that has to be made tonight. It's a fair request, and I think it's one that you guys should take your time and come back, have a conversation with Mr. Heenan and the Fair Board later. Yeah, that being said, I was just given direction here, the floor is still open to comments or questions. Councilman Sprinkle, Councilman Schramm, and Councilman Schuyler, the floor is yours if you'd like it. Hearing none, Councilman Clay, secondly, Levin.
Have you guys adjusted your ramp lately or anything?
Yes, we have.
You did.
Yep, we just did this year, we bumped it up from, I wouldn't say considerably, but we definitely bumped it up.
Some. Okay. I
Unfortunately-
just appreciate to see when somebody's trying to help themselves also. We can talk about, we can make a motion to approve the 5,000.
Yeah.
We can talk about it in finance
Yes.
committee further, for an additional 2,500, and see if we can't come up with some ideas in finance committee to bring back to the council or
You
something.
have a bucket that's full.
Yeah.
You can spend it however you want. This is your one area where you guys spend.
You're the first one asking for the budgeted money. so.
He said come early.
I said he's the first one asking out of the budgeted money.
I did just send that full list to council about 5:30.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
looking at it now.
Councilman Hockett, any other questions?
I think that's a good way to approach it.
Yeah.
Comes back to your committee, and then you guys can go over all the bullet points of everything
See if we
else
can
we
make
do.
any cuts and try to
But
find
it's
you
gonna-
2,500.
Whoever you cut's gonna cause a little heart.
Appreciate everything you guys are
You
doing
know
for
that.
us.
Well,
Okay, no further comment or question. The chair is calling the question, which is to donate $5,000 to Trip County Fairboard. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it, this motion does carry for the $5,000 disbursement. And it sounds like you may have an opportunity for follow-up.
yeah. Thank you.
Excuse me, I gotta get.
No, stick around. You gotta watch the rest of this.
Middle school basketball.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
I don't want you to upset that little guy, you go watch.
You go watch it.
Grandma's the one that scares the hell out of me.
I remember Casey was that size.
So council, again, at this time, I am going to move to suspend the rules and move back to recognition of visitors and communications. We have no other recognized visitors at this time. This time, I would ask for a new hire communication from the finance department.
I was notified today that there were no new hires in the previous 2 weeks.
Okay. So that concludes recognition of visitors and communications. We'll now move on to department reports. Our first scheduled report tonight is from Public Safety Commissioner Justin Day. And Justin, prior to you giving the report, during recognition of visitors, we had a discussion about the siren on the east side of. and
Yeah, we are planning a test to run them all again and see.
When is our scheduled maintenance or inspection?
That will be in the spring.
Spring.
So if we find out that it's not in service, then we will make that call much sooner and then have them get down and look at it.
This one that Donna referred to is not working.
Yep. Okay. Donna is very good at letting me know when, yep. No, I do appreciate it, Donna. Thank you.
We
'Cause
just
she-
never responded, so I thought, well, maybe you've taken it down. I don't know.
Nope, still got it. So I get them all. So.
Is that ran by the PSAP, the schedule? The PSAP?
That will actually, I believe the fire department is what came out of that, but what we'll do is when we do the test, the PSAP will notify the fire department to let them know that we're running a test, and then we'll crack them all off, and then we'll have people at each one to basically right underneath of them to what works, what doesn't, and then we'll go from there, so.
Wasn't that didn't we do a supplemental budget? We
Yeah.
ran it through the fire department last time, or
Yeah.
paid for it. It was an emergency battery
Yeah.
or something.
Contingency, and I think we spent nearly
Yeah.
40,000.
40,000, little over
That's what I
40,000
thought,
for,
40, 50,000.
yeah, because we had to replace one, and then they had a used one that was all refurbished that they replaced another one with, so. Yep.
But this seems to be the same one that isn't working, that wasn't working before.
Yeah, that one kind of throws me for a loop because sometimes it doesn't and then sometimes it seems to. So we have had them check it, and when they've checked it, they found everything to be working. And when we've ran the tests, it worked. So I don't really know I don't really have any answer to that.
I
So,
didn't let you know about the one the other day, like 11th, I think I said it was, but I called the police department, but I didn't know if they let you know that or not.
okay.
I told them to pass it on, but
Okay, perfect.
they did.
So starting with reports, and I will hand these out so you guys can look at them, because when we get to corrections, there's a lot in there. So I will hand each of you a packet after the meeting so you guys can take a look at all the information that's in there. It's got a lot of the numbers for 23 and everything there, so we'll go over it briefly, but I'll leave it to you guys to really dive into it. So starting off with the 911 communications PSAP, over 1,850 incidents were entered into CAD, 711 were 911, and then a little over 3,500 were administrative calls. And then as far as what's been going on in dispatch, we did do an interview for an open position, and then we are setting up another interview. We got another app coming in on that, so we will be doing another interview there. Next page, this is the report for all of the counties that we dispatch for. There were 1,851 total calls that came in. The next page will be just the calls for the Winter Police Department, and as pretty usual during this time of year, our call volume goes down as a whole, but you know, the other calls as far as like assisting the public and all that stuff seem to go up during this time of year. So there were 377 total calls for this last month period. Switching over to the Winter Police Department, Officer Fitzgerald is currently in his 7th week at law enforcement training up in Pierre. Officer Foster is currently in his 7th week of field training here in-house at the PD. We held Feeding South Dakota on January 5th, and it was a little chaotic this time. We kind of had to route people down streets. But we got through everything, and then they will be back again on February 2nd. There's been quite a few traffic accidents over the last couple of weeks, obviously with the snow coming in and the ice. Just kind of reminding the public to expect the intersections to be slick. So slow down, give yourself plenty of room. Neutral's always a good idea when you're pulling up to those, so we're not seeing people slide through and into each other. And then kind of as I said, officers have been given quite a few rides. A lot of people to work and back, kind of when it gets into this kind of weather and their vehicles can't make it. We like to make sure people can still get to work when they need to. So, and then if it's, you know, the officers aren't on something, then that's kind of the public service aspect of the police department. We'll make sure that, you know, the hospital and those places can get the employees that they need to get there. Chelsea was planning on being here tonight, but she did have a previous engagement for this evening, so she did give me her report. There were 2 permits issued, building permits, one at 1140 East 5th, one at 526 West 3rd. The one at 5th Street was for a dye bond panels with vinyl graphics, and then the one at 3rd Street was a sidewalk from the curb to the door. And then she did include in there, which you will see, it was a copy of the letter that was resent out, notifying the public of the change in ordinance. So people are not, the ones that were not in violation will be receiving this one. The 3 that remained in violation, 2 of those have gotten their courtesy notice to rectify the problem, and then 1, we are in the process with the administrative citations. Then switching over to the jail report, today's count, we have 161 inmates in custody today. For the month average, these last 16 days have been 162, which is also our yearly average so far. So for the last 30-day period, monthly intakes, we had about 110 come into custody, while 100 were released, and then we had 50 inmate movements. For our monthly provider visits, which is where the doctors from the hospital come into facility to see inmates, they came down 5 different occasions and they saw 40 inmates. And then we also had 12 mental health visits that took place. For billing for the month of December, just a little over $398,000 in prisoner days, and then transports was just over $9,000. We did have a pepperball class, so Instructor Farner held the class on January 8th, and that was attended by both correction staff as well as police department staff. 5 from corrections were sent to a training in Mitchell on January 9th and 10th. That was put on by Safety Benefits. That is a class we've held here in winter before as well, and we look to be doing that again probably this summer. And then Instructor Rehack, he had his first med-aid student that is in the final stages of their certification to become a certified med-aid. And then just kind of a little update. We are 2 weeks into the change in the 24/7 program. Things are going very well there. We continue to do the UA section over at the LEC, and now the PBTs have been taken over by the county, so everything seems to be working very well there. We do have an advertisement for an open full-time position, which closes on January 19th. And then on this back page, when I hand it to you, you will see kind of the breakdown of our top 10 counties and agencies that we held for throughout the year of 2023. And then it gives the average daily inmate count for each one of those agencies. And then that kind of puts everything together and how we came up with, because our average daily population for 2023 was 161.32. So with all of those, you can see that. And then there's just a little note down there that says these were the biggest breakdowns, but then the rest of the averages were kind of made up by those courtesy holds. So if someone has a Pennington County warrant and they get arrested somewhere else, then that's between the sheriffs, and that's kind of what made up the rest of the figures. So, any questions?
Non-county, what's our non-county customers daily average, where are we at on that? What's that number?
114.7 in 23.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep. Any others? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Our next scheduled report is from our city engineer, Jacob Morris of DGR. He's got a lot of people.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm gonna start by passing out some exhibits here that are gonna help with this conversation. Apologize, in a perfect world, this would have been in your packet. Thank you. Look at them, but just notice from the dates, they were made yesterday, so that didn't happen. The first drawing you're looking at there is kind of a combination of projects we and the staff have been looking at and talking about over the last couple months. Not planning to get into a lot of detail on each of these. A lot of it's just kind of planning, getting stuff on the radar. The three intending to spend the most time are the, what shown on here is the northeast surfacing improvements. That's up in the Plum Street, Spruce area, Monroe Street reconstruction, and then the shared use path. The next two drawings are pretty simple in nature and just reflect both what's intended for chip seal and mill and overlay in 2024. These locations are largely a product of Troy and Kelly working together to continue the efforts they've been doing the last few years and getting those roads up to par. The third drawing is referencing back to that northeast area, Spruce Plum Street intersection. This drawing here kind of depicts how we've put some thought into it and kind of broken it out into different aspects. Planning, and we think it's a pretty good plan to move forward with kind of an approach that the asphalt portion is included in the contract with the mill and overlay folks, and then the concrete work, curb work would be done with its own bid letting as part of the miscellaneous concrete that's been accustomed to the last few years. And then a lot of the removals, street grading and such would be self-performed by the city. They do have a stockpile of material from the highway project that would be a suitable base for that road. So kind of honing in on this, the biggest change that would happen out there would be a slight realignment of the intersection of Plum and Spruce. So as you know, Tripp Street and Spruce are disconnected by a half block as it sits today. If you continue Plum straight down into Spruce, they don't align appropriately. The right-of-ways align as they should, but the road south of Spruce Street is hugging the east side of the right-of-way. So in order to get that intersection into the appropriate location in the right-of-way to facilitate sidewalk, drainage, utilities and such, there'd be a slight bend in that road. So that's why we're going as far south as we are. Once that concrete work was done, then the paving operations would occur at one time, whether that be, paving Tripp, which is currently base course, mill and overlay on Pine and Juniper, and then patching back in what was removed on the Plum and Spruce intersection there. I believe this is briefly talked about in street committee. I wasn't there, of course, but any questions on that one?
More of a statement than a question, Jacob.
What you got?
7th Street, we got a little hiccup on 7th Street. Have you seen that where the kind of does a little sachet coming up the hill over here?
Yep.
That bothers me. It's kind of been a contention of mine that we would have one of those under my watch, my term on the council. We got one. And I'm just owning it. I was part of it. I missed the alignment of the maps and I'm owning it. We got this little hiccup. You can call it Jeremy Clay if you want. Sorry.
Clay
I
Lane.
don't like it, but it's the way it is.
Yeah, and the way to, the only way to remedy that, the right-of-way is set, that's not gonna change. You'd really have to reconstruct Plum Street all the way south to Pine, and, even farther south than that to really avoid the curve in the road. And I say curve, but it's really,
Sachet.
yeah, there you go.
That's a technical term.
So it's,
Engineering term.
without going above and beyond, what's needed for function, and more or less spending a lot more money, this is the
Jacob, how
way to
far
make all that
offset
work.
is that?
I believe it's about 15 feet from center line to where the new center line would be.
Okay, that's substantial.
And when you drive around town, I bet you we have a dozen of those such sachets. Because one guy thought it should be over there and the other guy thought it should be over there, and here we are. So what's one more sachet? Right. Mr. Clay.
Yeah, the sachet would have to be either south or north of the intersection. We're proposing to put it south because puts the intersection where it should be, and then we wouldn't be hugging the right-of-way on the north side. And that property in the northeast corner, if we hug that right-of-way, it's gonna be awfully challenging to get their backyard to drain to the street. It's a matter of feasibility and practicality as well. So this kind of planning with this staff and Troy, this is a possible option for 2024. We already have this topo for this actually because of some other planning easement such we did in the area. So the intent would be to do that multi-project approach, if you will, where the asphalt's under that larger mill and overlay and the concrete's under its own contract. So. Moving ahead to the next drawing is Monroe Street. I believe this was also talked about. Yep, go ahead.
Who's on the streets with me? That's you. Correct me if I'm speaking out of turn here, Mr. Hockett, but I feel it was the streets committee opinion that we needed to finish this area in '24, just do the project. Wasn't our conversation?
Yes,
So
yes, we
had-
talked about that.
Yeah, that was our feeling, and I don't know if you touched on that, but I'm just stating that to the council, that that's what the streets committee thinks, that we just need to get that whole darn thing done.
Yeah, probably a little more insight on that train of thought. Based on kind of budget, available funds, it became kind of a matter of this area and East 7th Street, east of Highway 18, reclamation, where we're, similar to what we did on Main Street, where we're going all the way down, reclaiming that base and doing an asphalt mat. Those are comparable projects in terms of cost, not enough available funds to do both, so it kind of one or the other type scenario, and most, if not all, were in agreement that this was the priority, this area here.
That's what I remember, yes.
The Monroe Street improvements, this is a lot looser scope. What you're looking at here is certainly going to change probably several times between now and a project that's settled on, but Monroe Street was one that was considered for a mill and overlay. Troy and I looked at it, kind of both agreed it was beyond the point of maintenance, if you will, and justified a reconstruct to correct the wrongs in the condition of the street, drainage, pedestrian accessibility, kind of a number of factors that came into play there. As we started talking, we thought community access grant might be a good option to consider on this one due to its proximity to downtown, several businesses, traffic counts it sees. So that's kind of where we're going, and at this time, this, like I said before, this project area you see is a product of kind of adding to what was, initially looking at 3 blocks of Monroe Street and seeing, what makes sense to add on to it, whether it be as a single project or a phased project. We do intend to replace utilities, water, and some storm sewer with said project. That's scoring criteria in the grant, community access grant, so important factor there. The timing of this would be such that we would prepare the application, engineering report that goes with it, submit that to the DOT in July 15th, in cooperation with District 3. That funding is awarded at the November DOT Commission meeting, at which time we would know if those funds, if this project's awarded. That grant's up to $600,000 max, and it's 80% of total construction costs, eligible construction costs, which eligible for the sake of this grant would be surfacing and storm sewer, no water or sewer or engineering. So, at the very least, you're looking at a $600,000 grant, you're probably looking at $1 million project at minimum. That would be, your $800,000 of eligible costs, and then another $200,000 of non-eligible. I would tell you that $1 million would probably only get you the 3 blocks of Monroe here. If we're looking at either, like I said, multi-phase or bigger project, it would be in excess of that. But just to kind of let you know where our head's at and the direction we're
These
going.
2 extra wings here, I haven't seen these, that's just a drawing or a thought process for the grant application?
It would be, yeah, so the scope of this project is subject to a lot more digging, if you will. The thought is that, the water could use some improving on all 4 of those adjacent streets. So we would likely kind of approach it as replace the water as feasible and then maybe do some spot repairs in areas that need it, but not particularly do the full reconstruct that we would be on Monroe. It's really gonna take just a little more digging to kind of figure out what's appropriate there. Going back to that grant, that requires a preliminary engineering report, so that's kind of the appropriate time to do that. The intent would be use the spring to hone in on a scope and project area, have a comfortable opinion of cost for you guys, and then, you know, at that time, have all that in place before we would actually submit on the grant. Because once you submit on the grant, you're more or less committing to your portion of that project, so we would submit at that time, budget for a 2025 or 2026 project, whatever was appropriate there.
It's just my opinion that this Monroe Street project is a high priority, just high visible, high use area, and very expensive, but that is my opinion.
Is the water mains underneath the street now there?
It's not in some of the blocks. Troy can probably speak to that better than I, but 3rd and 4th Street, I believe that doesn't exist between 3rd and 4th on Monroe right now. So we would likely add that as a looping segment there. And then going east and west, it's kind of a combination of cast iron and some asbestos cement pipes. So good reason to get that replaced with PVC.
I just figured out how to get those fuckers shut off.
One other piece I didn't mention is, you know, we can consider some improved street lighting with this project as well. More of emulation of Main Street type corridor where it's better lit, more decorative lights, you know, all stuff that can be worked out, but certainly probably lacking in that department as it sits today on Monroe, so.
Timeframe, Grant, you would find out November 24.
Correct, yep.
Does that allow time to go to bid for start on the 25 if council would choose to do that?
Yeah, I would propose you know, kind of a scenario where we would move forward with at least like a topo survey and some preliminary engineering this spring. That would allow us to have the information needed to get that scope ahead of the grant application. And then we could hold off on any final design, construction plan preparation until that grant was awarded or not awarded, because that's likely going to, you know, change our construction year. But yes, to shortly answer your question, yes, we would be able to bid the project for 2025 construction.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for you. I've been very vocal on this project. Is this a time that the council can speak to this? Or, because street committee, there's the 2 of us, when do you talk about that?
This is the perfect time, because your engineer is sitting here with
Right.
actual designs. Yeah. One of the things that we talked about in committee is we've appropriated 600,000. 450 would go to the mill and grind projects that we have here. That leaves 150,000 that can either go for the trip or the Monroe projects that both need to be completed. This one's got the grant application with it. However it goes up, we're gonna need to use appropriated funds, which we have. We've been bankrolling those to go for either this project or that project or both.
Yeah, and to speak to that, you know, the real expenses with this project wouldn't be in 2024. I mean, there'd be some expense on the engineering side, you know, assuming we got a little ways down the road, but, you know, any construction expenses obviously wouldn't be until 2025 at the earliest.
And maybe roll over to 26.
Yeah,
Very
very well could.
possibly.
Yep, yeah, if we don't get that grant awarded, it's not uncommon to resubmit essentially the same project and get it in a second funding cycle. As much as it is as the legitimacy of your product or project, it is the competition you're going against, so sometimes there's 30 people fighting for the same $3 million, and sometimes there's 6, so it's just, sometimes patience is a virtue.
Cash for it,
But we do.
too. Yeah.
It is quite possible what you're saying, Jake, is that we could do the mill and grind, finish the trip project with the funds that we have appropriated this year, come back next year, or this spring's budget process, and address the Monroe project at that time.
Correct, yep,
That sounds,
yep.
Budget
Yeah,
in 24 for 25, do it. If we get the grant, great, and if we don't, we budgeted for it.
yeah.
We go forward.
Austin, the mayor says this is the time to talk about it. Does anybody else feel that this Monroe project is of high as a priority as myself?
I do.
Yes, thank you. I know we've talked about it.
Yeah, that's a core part of town, and it's fell into disrepair lately. But I think it's important, crying out loud, we got the post office there, we got, you know, I mean, it's a core part of town. And I think it should be a priority with this council to move forward, you know, as we got the funds to do this. It's a high priority to me too, I agree with you.
Not only the post office, you have City Hall.
Well, you got that, but, I mean, it's just, you know, access to,
Access to Main Street.
someday there may be another bank there or something if, but,
And you have a concrete street that's clearly separated quickly.
yeah, yeah, no,
This design is for concrete?
It would actually be for asphalt. That would be our
Asphalt.
intent, would be to tear out all the concrete, do utilities grading and such, and then it would be an asphalt road section put back.
This would be a 4-inch lift, much like we did on North Main, correct?
At the very least 4, if not more, depending on, you know, what we expect for truck traffic, yep.
Public Works Director told us that a 4-inch lift is sufficient for handling these big delivery trucks that come up the street or whatever, is that correct? And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, I'm just trying to recall that this street would be built, designed, graded to handle those, our delivery trucks.
Delivery
coming in,
trucks.
businesses.
Yeah, I would, yeah, if it's a semi-regular truck traffic delivery, yes, generally, a 4-inch section over the top of adequate base course is gonna handle that. If you start looking into like a heavy industrial area, that's when you start looking at a 5 or 6-inch section, but if it's semi-regular traffic, then yeah, a 4-inch section would be appropriate for that scenario. I suppose you guys could speak better to me how many trucks actually use that road. That'd be something that would be a part of the preliminary engineering report, because traffic counts and all that, but
Sometimes not even on a day.
yeah, it's, so.
So will the intersection we stuck the money into at Monroe and over here last year, a year before, will that be tore out or reused?
Yep. Yeah, we would grab onto that new water, go south.
Okay,
west.
I just didn't know if we were able
Or
to
north,
reuse
excuse
it or
me.
not.
Mr. Mayor.
One of the things that came out of conversation in streets and sanitation is when we covered that intersection with concrete, we left a water junction underneath that intersection by the post office.
Yes, so when we tore this up, I don't know what year it happened, I'm just guessing, I'm saying 2015-ish, that intersection got to the point where they had to do something with it, so they just did a surface correction where they just concreted over the surface, but they didn't go down and do any water.
It was
or so.
18,
No, it was last year in 18.
that's when it happened,
No, it was before that.
$100.
You don't wanna lose-
Anyway,
you don't wanna lose any more bets.
Go ahead.
But anyways, I can't tell you for sure what's under there. All I know is we dug under there ways, we found cast iron pipe, we stepped out long enough, so we have something to grab onto. But we think there's a set of valves under there, we know it's cast iron.
Okay, I just didn't know.
Yeah,
I just
that's a good
I remember
question.
doing it. I just question.
Yeah, it needs to be torn up.
Okay.
Would you like to address your final exhibit?
Yes, sure thing. The final drawing is actually one that we kind of put together in the summer when the topic of trail shared use paths first got brought up. So this is kind of an overall depiction of what exists currently for shared use paths. When I say shared use path, it's essentially just a widened sidewalk for the most part. And then kind of what a future build out may look like with a few phasing options. It's been well documented that 7th Street is a lacking corridor in terms of pedestrian connectivity. So putting a lot of emphasis on there all the way from South County through the highway. That's kind of a logical loop through the middle of town, gets you to some parks, schools and such. The funding for this one is called the Transportation Alternatives Program. That's also administered through the DOT. That one's even more so administered than the community access. Community access, you get the money and, the DOT oversees it, but largely lets you do as you please. On this one, the DOT actually holds the agreement with the city and with the consulting firms, and then they would cover up to 81.05% of the construction and engineering costs. The local government is responsible for the remaining 18 and change, and then you're actually invoiced from the DOT in that scenario. Something you guys may or probably have done in the past there. This funding used to be limited to a 400,000 max. It was recently up to 600,000 max, and now just recently has no limit. So I say that, but you kind of get points for phasing, and you want to be able to bite off projects that are constructible and feasible within a season. So that's kind of the approach we took with laying this out. Again, this is subject to change, but a worthwhile consideration as we look towards that. The funding cycle of this one, as far as timing goes, is similar to the community access. There's actually a letter of intent. That's the first step. That's due in July. It's followed up by on-site visits from the DOT staff, and then the formal application is due in October, and the funds are awarded in November. Because of the contractual nature with the DOT, this one takes a little longer to get through design. So unlike the Monroe Street project, the earliest something like this could be constructed would be 2026 with the 2024 funding. You just kind of, it takes that extra step by the time you get agreements, contracts in place. And as the consulting engineer, we actually can't step foot or start the project until the agreement's signed with the DOT. So we actually wouldn't be able to even start until spring of 2025, assuming that the engineering costs you guys would want that to be reimbursed, which only makes sense. So.
With that grant, engineering cost is reimbursable?
Correct, yep. That covers all aspects of the project at that 81.05%. So, in the past with these projects, we've kind of historically scoped them to be a $500,000 project, because then you get your $400,000 max, or, so on there. Now without the max, it kind of gives us a little more freedom to bite off bigger pieces and still get that same lucrative 81% split. But obviously the city's still on the hook for the other portions, so that's got to be budgeted for and accounted for. But
I have a two-part question here. talking about the trail system. I remember it was 06, 07, 08, somewhere in there. You went and looked up and you found out, because I was talking about that for not just what was the construction part, but agreement was in place that they were using 7th Street as part of the green trail along Elder Inn, whatever that was. What was the name of that? Was there a name of the grant application at that point in time or something that helped pay for part of that?
Yeah, there was, and I apologize,
Okay.
I don't know it off the
All
top
right.
of my head.
Good. My question is, since we've previously already done some grant work on this, and they already, the councils at that time included a lot of this route in their grant, and we, if they got funding for that area, I don't know, but you can see where we put in the concrete at that time.
Yep.
But does it hinder this project where there's already been agreement put in place, including and labeling this as part of the trail system in winter?
I don't think so.
Okay.
They look favorably on phased approaches to these types of projects, so I think it's more or less that at that time, that was what was constructed, this was a future phase. Now we're tackling that, what was a future phase as a current phase, so.
I just want you to be aware, or whoever needs to be aware,
Yep.
that there has been an agreement put in place that designated that as part of the trail system here.
Yep.
You know,
When we first started looking at this last summer, District 3 did get involved too, and they said, we started a grant process for this 7th Street area, but never finalized
Okay.
it. So the 7th Street area was never finalized, we didn't receive any monies for the 7th Street.
that was just part of it, where they designated, then it dropped
Yep.
off.
Yep.
And over the years, the name of these sidewalk type grants has changed. It used to be like Safe Routes to School was one of them and a couple other names. They're now kind of all encompassed into this Transportation Alternatives Program. Kind of one pool of money now that is available for different options. That's what I had for this evening. No official action, of course, just more or less wanted to bring everybody up to speed, and this spring, when we got a little more information, we'll share that and get some grants applied for and hopefully get some money.
Sounds good.
And spend some.
That's right.
Thanks for coming, Jay.
Our next scheduled report comes tonight from Public Works Director Troy Kruger.
I'd just like to follow up on a few things that Jake said. Kind of where we're leaning at this year is the mill and overlays. We got about $450,000 worth of identified streets that do need to have that surfacing process redone. And then we've also added in that trip plumb deal between curb and gutter and the mill and overlay. What's budgeted for this year is roughly around $700,000. It's going to come really close to probably being able to do those two projects with the funds that we have this year. The Monroe Street, like Jake said, once we got to looking at that project, there's quite a few issues on there. I've heard from the public on quite a few concerns. One is parking in front of the barber shop. They'd like to see more parking there. We have a parking issue in front of the insurance center where there's such a steep grade to the drainage there that people that get out of their vehicles, there's quite a big step just to get down out of your vehicle onto that street there. We have no sidewalks and the lighting's pretty poor in that area. So like Jake said, what I kind of envisioned for that project is to kind of make that a little more like a Main Street area, better public access, more lighting, sidewalks, ADA, that's a big thing. Just got to keep, you guys hear me harp on that, but just being ADA compliant just helps you out in so many ways with grants and opportunities to get funding. So we really lack that in all those areas. And some of the projects that you saw on that list, a lot of that other stuff is not necessarily my ideas, but things that I hear from the public. One concern that I've heard a lot about is the drainage ditch out in front of Rennings. That old Shopko in the Ace Hardware area, asking why we can't do something with that to improve that, get the rushes and the weeds and the standing water. Another one's up there by the hospital, lacking parking up there by the hospital, maybe turning those Boulevard Street into off-street parking up there. A lot of those ideas are, you know, we want to fix up our town and make it more attractive, and that Monroe Street project's just, it's a little bit more than we can tackle and make it look pretty. Too many issues there. And the bike path, we struggle with that for snow removal, to try and get that path cleaned off, make it a safe way to, safe sidewalk for our kids to use or the public. But it's such a narrow sidewalk, we don't have any, it's only a 3-foot wide sidewalk, and everything drained towards the sidewalk. So when the weather gets nice, we have a lot of icing issues up there. It's on a hill. We have nowhere to go with the snow. So that's kind of why we're pushing that bike, the public path. And then we just,
Only on 7th Street.
7th Street in particular, but yeah, there's also some other areas that Jacob put on the map that we'd have areas to expand that. Lost my train of thought, but anyways, that's, some of those projects, I know they're far out, but I'd like to see some stuff on the shelf, you know, so that you never know what's gonna happen. We have stuff that we can pull down off the shelf and go forward with those projects. So if I leave or something happens, we've got somebody that can take, you know, grab some of that stuff down and have an idea where we are going as a whole. But I encourage you guys to talk to me too and let me know what you know, what your ideas are and what you think. A lot of the stuff, we are actually getting to the point where we're getting caught up on some of our utilities. Water's come a long ways. Sewers, we could, you know, another 2 or 3 years, we could have our sewer knocked out. So that gives us an opportunity to use those funds in other areas to make, you know, improvements to the city. Yeah, we're making ground. So start thinking ahead 5-10 years from now where we're gonna go with our funds. But my public report for the month: water and sewer monthly meter readings, monthly water samples. They ended their discharge out of the lagoons. We went around and fueled all the generators before this cold spell. They helped with the plow snow, haul snow, sanded. They helped construct the ice rink out there at the city park. I think half of our guys had to get we have to take a yearly class to renew the Sperry license for the public health. Installed meter heads and radios. We did receive the large shipment of radios. I believe we have all of our radios now that were owed to us. They're still lacking a few of our larger meters, 1.5 and bigger. But to date, they have about 716 meters and radios installed. Basically, they're done from 6th Street south is pretty much knocked out. Streets and sanitation, number of guys in that department that had to get their license renewed. Plow snow, haul snow, sand streets, and then service work on vehicles. Parks and Cemetery, they set up the ice rink, funerals. They put some new foul poles out of Bailey's complex, out of some scrap material that we had. They made those. Concrete work on Bailey's complex. We've been fighting some issues down there in the last couple of years with leaky toilets and things like that, so they're tackling some of those projects this winter. As you guys know, all the bathrooms in the ballparks, all the doors got redone this summer, so we rekeyed those all, one key for all doors. Got the locks in those, they're all locked up for the year. And then they've just rebuilding some shelving down there at their building. Light department, 1,415 meters deployed, they're getting pretty close, a couple hundred, maybe 250 meters left to go. Trim trees, inventory, serviced equipment, and with all the meters, the installation and the programming all goes along with that. Electrical department, Ray helped with a little snow removal. Our fuel system went down on us for a couple days. Ray was instrumental in working with the company to get that back up and going for us. He had to do some wiring in our box for our shop gate there. Working with Command Center daily, the meters that get deployed, making sure we can get reads off them, making sure that those reads are going to our billing system, program meters. Working with Landis on some issues that have come up with meters. We have had a number of meters that they just didn't work, or we had to do a special, something that was out of the ordinary, out of the usual, and Ray's been tackling those problems and communicating with Landis, letting them know what we're finding, and working through those issues with those guys. And then I had Ray go through myself and Ray, we went through the contract, the original contract that we had with Landis, just to make sure that everything that we ordered, we'd received. And so we went down the line and we made sure everything was accountable. And to date, I think they owe us one spare antenna for our read system that comes into this office. So we notified them. And then some meters that we have in town that they have to actually program them and do all as 4S meters and some of our commercial meters. And Ray's been taking care of a lot of that stuff between Ray and Kurt, the different programming that we have to do. Some of those meters, we need them to keep track of the demand to the end of the month so we can get that information off it. Some of them aren't doing that. Some of them are dropping that information before the end of the month. So some of those little things that, like that they've been correcting and working with the Landis people. Any questions?
Any update on the stop light?
Talked to those people last week. They were supposed to receive the shipment to them of a couple of different boxes. Once they receive it, they're going to get it all set up for our stoplight. So I'm hoping by the end of the month. Anyone else?
Troy, I have a question for you about now that the highway project is over and all the streets are open, when will the barricade be taken down on the alley beside Senex?
When I'm told to do it.
So I would ask you, or whoever, when it was authorized by the city council to effectively close that alley, there's a process that has to be followed, such as public hearings, unanimous consent by the people that are affected by the closing of that alley. I think that it ought to be removed until such time as somebody can prove to us that it should be closed. Right now, I still believe that that alley is to be open. It's a public right-of-way, and it has no business being closed, other than for the safety reasons that you exhibited to me during the road construction. We've lost that reason, and I think it should be moved. That alley should be accessible to any and all citizens in the city of Winter.
I don't agree or disagree with you, Brad. I will open the alley or leave it shut. When I hear from the mayor and legal. Any other questions?
My next question is there a plan to remove the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit signs? I know it's too cold to do it now, but I just wonder what that plan is.
Yeah, I would say, so we're going to go ahead with that. We're also going to go ahead with the removal of the stop signs and the yield signs and all that kind of stuff. With the amount of snow cover that we have right now, that obviously the stop signs and the yield signs, that's not going to happen. The 20-mile-an-hour signs, as soon as we get a break here, we're going to start taking the 20-mile-an-hour signs down.
We've had maps on the street, stop signs somewhere.
Yeah.
We talked about, I don't have that right.
Yeah, he's prepared the map.
I've seen it.
We just need to turn it
And the
over.
streets just approved it, yeah.
He said he had a list too.
I actually have
DGR.
the maps here.
So, the main thing, Troy, that we need to just keep in mind is when you're ready to swap those stop signs and yield signs and get those permanent, we're ready through the committee process to finalize that so that they'll all be enforceable under the ordinance. So we'll just need to kind of coordinate timing on that.
So this,
Will when the 20-mile-an-hour signs come down, are we just, while we're there, putting up 25-mile-an-hour?
No,
Or they're
you
just,
don't have to
they're
put
not
them
gonna be
up.
You don't
marked at
have
all?
to- That's the same, you're gonna have to put them on.
It's
That's
assumed to be
that's what I
25
thought. I just
miles
wanted to
an
make
hour
sure
unless
that's
posted.
where we were still at.
That's the beauty of this.
It is
Going
posted
25.
on the, when you come into town, correct? A lot of towns post it that all side streets or whatever or 25 mile an hour. It's posted on the or on the edge of town is where a lot of towns do it.
No.
Hang it by that, no Jake break sign that everybody listens to. Yeah.
Still has to do with it. I thought you
No.
said so.
So I was asked to come up with a map that kind of shows the streets and the traffic flow, and Jacob was kind enough to print it with his printer over at his office. He made it a lot prettier than mine, so it's pretty self-explanatory. Highway 18, Highway 44, everything stops to those, and then you'll have your Collector 1 streets, which are in black, and all streets will stop to the Collector 1 streets. The Collector 2 streets are in blue, navy blue, and those will be a yield sign, and all other streets will be on, there'll be no stop sign, no yield sign. Your school zones are highlighted in yellow, and your emergency is highlighted in red. We didn't change anything in the school zones. Nothing will change in the school zones.
Do you have school zone signs to be placed other than, for instance, along 7th Street where they are currently? Are there signs to be placed for school zone on Country Club Road and on the North
They should
Main?
already be there.
The only intersecting road that doesn't have a sign that indicates that you're entering a school zone is 8th Street. And
Okay.
we have a sign ordered to put in place for that.
Okay.
That's the only place in town that doesn't have a sign that indicates you're entering into a school zone.
Okay.
When you come off Main and you take a left, you have the big school zone sign right there. But
And it's while you're still going south. The entering school zone is in front of the athletic center.
yes,
Yeah,
Correct,
going south before you turn
correct.
on 7th. Yep.
There's one on Country Club, going north on Country Club. Is there a sign?
yeah.
There is. I'm just asking. Okay.
Any questions on this map? It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
That's good work. Yep. So then, Mr. Mayor, if I might, I'd like to follow up on the answer that Troy gave us. What is the holdup on removing the barricades that were put up for a certain purpose?
We'll move on to our
Elliott
next
Center.
scheduled report at this time.
I'm sorry?
We're moving on to our next scheduled report at this time. You can address that with the council and myself. It is Chandra Phillips, the finance officer.
So, biggest thing going on right now is it's election time again. I feel like we just got done with it. We have 4 open ward positions and mayor position. Difference this year is Councilman Schuyler was appointed by council and therefore can only be on council without running for the remainder of that term. So there will be a 1-year in Ward 1, a 2-year in Ward 1, a 2-year in Ward 2, a 2-year in Ward 3, and a 2-year for mayor. And anyone can choose any of those if they live in the wards. So Mr. Schuyler's term for him, technically there's 1 year left in that term. But because he was appointed, he can only run until the next, or he can only sit in that position until the next election. So he would have to rerun to finish out the 1-year term for that chair.
Or he could choose to run for the 2-year.
Or, yes, absolutely.
When he takes his petition out is when he would designate which position he is running for.
Correct.
And the other person that's running from that board would also be able to choose if you want to run with the 2-year term again, or if you want to go run for the 1-year term.
They
You
can
would have-
cross?
They could.
Yes.
It's
Same
their
board.
choice.
Yep.
I'll sit by Jeremy.
And we will work through that with anyone who comes into our office to get a petition. We always recommend that when you get a petition, it comes through our office so that we can help give you the information on how many signatures you need and all that information, although that is not required by law. You do not have to come through my office. You can print them off from the state secretary. Just make sure you follow all the rules, but we do have a booklet that we hand out to everyone. Here's how many signatures you need, here's your ward, here's your map, here's all this information. So, January 26th, 8 a.m., it's a Friday, you can come get them. You can turn them in on that last Friday of February, so you have approximately 30 days to get the petition signed and turned in. So, any questions on the election?
They're gonna be back in when?
The last Friday of February by 5 p.m. I would prefer, actually, I would not prefer, it would behoove you to get it turned in before 5 p.m. on that day, because if you wait till 5 p.m., I can't guarantee that you'll have enough signatures, because it will take me a while to check them. So, worked with Jared at DGR today, and we officially have our buyback rate for solar. What we were waiting on is what our loss factor percentage was, and that was based off of what we sold last year compared to what we purchased from WAPA and MRES. He did get that information back to me after figuring out the report we were running was incorrect, and so we got the correct report and got the correct information. Our loss factor for 2023 is 4.62, which is actually under what a municipality our size and our kilowatts is. They say usually between 5 and 7 or 8 loss factors, so we're right there. We're doing pretty good. So
Is that, are you saying in percent?
Yes.
4%?
yes,
Okay.
yep, 4.62%. So the PURPA buyback rate, which is set by MRES through a bunch of studies, and they do all of that, and they have to announce it in October every year. That is 0.0306. So 3 cents and some change for every kWh used, put back onto the system.
What was that rate again?
0.0306. Then we add our loss factor percentage onto that, because that's not something that we spent money on. We add our loss factor back into that, so ultimately it will be purchased at 0.0320.
What does KWH stand for?
Kilowatt hours.
Kilowatt hours.
For the public, thank you.
Oh, yes, kilowatt hours, yep. We have 3 homes that this applies to, and we will get that taken care of on their January readings, which will be billed out at the end of February, first part of March is when they'll see that. We will put it as a credit on their bill. We will report how much readback there was from January when we have that information, and then MRES will credit our bill with the amount. So it'll be a wash between what we're giving the customer for a credit and what MRES is paying us. But rather than MRES write a check to the customer, it just goes directly through the utilities. And that was part of the contract that we signed back in 2015-16. That was one of the first contracts I was part of. So that's where we're at with that.
Just ask Jeremy, he knows how to say.
The only other thing that we've been working on quite a bit, I shouldn't say the only other thing, there's a lot of things we're working on, but not gonna bring them up here. Website redesign. So we have been working with, you guys approved a contract with Drop Time Design, working very closely. I'm very excited with how it's looking, how much more user-friendly it is, how many more people are gonna be able to post on it, create things on it, and we'll have that training. So right now, she's been working on it off hours, so in the evenings, and so she'll send me an email in the evening, and then during the day, I'll go through it, email back, and then, so, I mean, it's taking a little extra time with the time change, but she is going to be here February 1st at 10 a.m. She will no longer be a City of Winter employee at that point in time, so she'll be here during the day, and we'll do some training with my staff, and Public Works, Public Safety have been invited to bring some of their staff in to learn their different departments as well and how to post those things. So if there's something you'd like to see on the website, let me know now. Your pictures are not on there, I'm sorry, just your names. And I think now we have the correct phone numbers on there for you. But there won't be 5 different places to change each thing that I need to change. one location, one-stop shop, so that should be,
If there's something we'd like to see on there, let you know.
yes, please, absolutely.
I don't know, it's clearly not my decision what goes on our website, but what I would like to see on the website is photos of all our appointments and the department heads, supervisors. I see on other city websites, when their photos are listed, their names, their numbers, I just like that. That's my opinion.
So we've had that
I have a
before
lot of opinions.
for Public Works, but they have not been updated since some of the changes there. I haven't gotten the photos, or I was adding one and then one quit, and then anyways. However, Public Safety has always in the past declined to have those photos up there for safety purposes. So I would leave that between the mayor and them if they want to tell me to do
I
that.
could see the police officers, but like our public safety commissioner, I think could be on there.
Sure.
My own opinion.
Yeah, I'll put whoever's photo on there that you want me to. That's between them. Right now, the mayor's photo is on the front page, so,
Really?
oh yeah,
Well,
meet
there's
the
I mean,
mayor.
there is a fine line of when people in the public call us, we're just strictly middleman. Then we just call Troy or we call Justin, or if it was easily accessible to get their number, there's not much, I mean, I can't say, okay, I'll go run that guy down for running a stop sign. I mean,
Yeah.
go right
All
to the
their
source
names are
rather than
posted there.
make 3
um,
phone calls to
And then
get your
Troy's
answer.
phone number and Justin's phone number are posted there. Actually, his cell phone is not posted there. I was requested to take that down. It's just the police department that was posted there. Troy's phone number is there. I've been told not to put any department head phone numbers out to the public, period. So we don't have cards for them anymore or anything. Goes directly through Troy or Justin. But their names are all there. I can get photos of the ones that allow me to.
And Mr. Jensen's.
Mr. Jensen has his own page.
Oh, wait.
I don't think I need a whole page.
It's a tab. You'll be fine.
All right. That does conclude department reports for the city of Winter. This evening, there are no bid openings. City of Winter has no public hearings. City of Winter has no board of adjustments. City of Winter does have old business. There's one item for consideration, council. Item number 1, do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Jones, Brule, Corson, and Campbell County Jail contract addendums.
Is there a second to this motion?
Let's second that.
Councilman Clunt with the motion to approve. That was seconded by Councilman Sprinkle. Floor is open to comments or questions, council, or point of information. Hearing none, Chair is going to call the question by a roll call vote. The question is the approval of Jones, Brule, Corson, and Campbell County Jail contract addendums. Councilman Clunt,
Yes.
Councilman Hockett,
Aye.
Councilman Sprinkle,
Yes.
Councilman Schuyler,
Aye.
Councilman Clay,
Yes.
and Councilman Schramm.
Aye.
Ayes have it, this motion carries. That concludes old business for the City of Winter. City of Winter will move on to new business. At this time, there are 9 remaining actionable items. On your list, item number 2. Council, do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve District 3 2024 agreement, have the mayor sign.
Is there a second to this motion?
I would second that, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Clunt with the motion to approve, Councilman Schramm with the second. Floor is open to comment, question, or point of information.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is our annual agreement that we have with District 3. It was budgeted for the exact amount. They're always really good about giving us their renewal. And this helps pay for them when they help us write grants that we don't receive. Also, they help It's a true statement.
And receive.
When we receive a grant, the grant writing costs.
They are our grant writers.
They are our grant writers, yes, but they also do our UEI number for us, our SAMs, what used to be considered the DUNS number, so they help us with a lot of those numbers that take quite a bit of time to do. Other companies will charge you several $1,000s just to do those 3 things each year, so it's a huge benefit to us and it is budgeted for.
Any other comment or question? Hearing and seeing none, Chair will call the question by a roll call vote, which is approving District 3's 2024 agreement and having the mayor sign. Councilman Hockett.
Aye.
Councilman Sprinkle.
Yes.
Councilman Schuyler.
Aye.
Councilman Clay.
Yeah.
Councilman Schramm.
Aye.
And Councilman Clunt.
Yes.
The ayes have it, and this motion carries. Council, item number 3. Do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the support agreement, 2024 IDEMIA Maintenance and Support Agreement, and have the mayor sign.
Is there a second to this motion?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Hockett with the motion to approve and Councilman Schramm with the second. Floor is open to comment, questions, or point of information.
So this is the agreement that we have for the body scanner down at the jail. It was talked about in committee, if you have anything else that you want to add to it.
It's actually our yearly contract for the fingerprint.
Fingerprint, sorry.
I was going to
I
say,
apologize.
I did look at this and
It's part of your body.
I did look at the contract and I compared it to last year. It's basically the identical contract as last year. I saw no problem with it.
Any other comment or question, council? Hearing none, Chair will call the question by a roll call vote, which is approving the 2024 IDEMIA Maintenance and Support Agreement and having the mayor sign. Councilman Sprinkle?
Yes.
Councilman Schuyler?
Aye.
Councilman Clay?
Yes.
Councilman Schramm?
Aye.
Councilman Clunt?
Yes.
And Councilman Hockett?
Aye.
The ayes have it. This motion carries. Item number 4, council, do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the
Fiscal year?
fiscal year 2024 FAAIP miscellaneous concrete airport project grant application and have the mayor sign.
Very good. Is it second to the motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that. I just didn't want to read it.
Thank you.
Oh, my God.
Councilman Clunt with the motion to approve, Councilman Clay with the second on the motion. Floor is open to comment, questions, or point of information.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is a project for miscellaneous concrete as well as some testing that needs to be done out at the airport for some of the bigger projects that we have coming up. Ultimately, Helms and Associates did notify us at the end of last year that we have some bill money that we need to get used up. They are able to find the projects out there such as engineering costs, excuse me, not engineering costs, but the tests that need to be run on the environment. That was the E word I was looking for.
EPA.
Environmental tests, and then some runway maintenance and different things like that. So total project cost is right around $225,000, of which most of that will be covered by bill. The city of Winter will have a small portion because the state will pitch in too. So it's right around $10,000, the city's portion of it.
Council, do you have any other comment or question? Hearing none, Chair will call the question by a roll call vote. The question is approving the fiscal year 2024 FAAIP miscellaneous concrete project grant application and having the mayor sign. Councilman Schuyler.
Aye.
Councilman Clay.
Yes.
Councilman Schramm.
Aye.
Councilman Clunt.
Yes.
Councilman Hockett.
Aye.
And Councilman Sprinkle.
Aye.
Ayes have it, and this motion will carry. Item number 5, council, do you have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion for a correction of the 3 wages that were listed incorrectly at last meeting.
And there is an attachment in your packet. Very good. Is there a second to Councilman Clay's motion?
I'll second that.
Councilman Clay with the motion, Councilman Clunt with the second. Floor is open to comment, question, or point of information.
Mr. Mayor and council, this was an error that we found. The minutes, or what was provided to you last meeting, there were 3 employees in there that you had given a 25-cent raise to due to excluding the grandfather clause, and that 25 cents for each one of those employees was accidentally left off of the list. So we needed to get that in the minutes. We've had the conversation with all of those employees to make sure that they understood why their name was being listed twice, and that their payroll did go through at the correct rate, but we needed to have it corrected for the minutes purposes.
Any other comment or question?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to
Councilman
call
Clay.
for a roll call vote.
Very good. Other comments or questions? Hearing none, Chair will call the question now by a roll call vote. The question being approving the correction of 3 wages listed incorrectly at the last meeting per the attachment in your packet. Councilman Clay,
Yes.
Councilman Schramm,
Aye.
Councilman Clunt,
Yes.
Councilman Hockett,
Aye.
Councilman Sprinkle,
Yes.
Councilman Schuyler.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and this motion carries. Item number 6, council, do you have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd move approval of Resolution 2024-1, Personnel Policy, Pilot Program on Footwear.
Is there a second to this motion?
I'll second that.
Councilman Schramm has the motion, Councilman to approve, Councilman Sprinkle with the second. Floor is open to comment, question, or point of information.
Mayor and council, this is something that our workman's comp approached the city of Winter to be a pilot program for, they would provide us with the option of 2 different kinds of shoe grips. One of the biggest issues, actually, I think they said 80% of workman comp claims are due to slips and falls, especially in the winter. So they are running a test program to see if providing these would be beneficial. Part of that, being part of that policy, or part of that pilot program, was that council had to pass a policy that they would ask their employees to participate in this. When we brought it up to law enforcement center, they were all on board with it. Then Public Works got asked, and it was reported back to me that they didn't see any issue to why not do it. So that's where we're at with it.
And I should just add one comment. There was a question at the committee meeting as far as if a person who was required to be wearing this protective gear failed to do so and was injured, would they still be covered by workers' comp? The answer is yes, they would.
Any other comment or question, council? Hearing none, Chair will call the question by a roll call vote, which is approving Resolution 2024-1, a personnel policy on a pilot program on footwear in the city of Winter. Councilman Schramm.
Aye.
Councilman Clunt.
Yes.
Councilman Hockett.
Aye.
Councilman Sprinkle.
Yes.
Councilman Schuyler.
Aye.
And Councilman Clay.
Yes.
The ayes have it, and this motion carries. Council, item number 7. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion for resolution 2024-2- encumbered.
To approve?
Yeah, to approve, sorry.
Is there a second to this motion?
I'll second that.
Councilman Clay with a motion to approve, Councilman Clunt with a second on the motion. Floor is open to comments, questions from council, point of information.
So, this is the first time the city of Winter has done an actual encumbering resolution. What we've done in the past is we've done supplemental budgets. A lot of cities do that, but I was able to reach out to Rapid City, and Rapid City was able to give me a copy of their resolution for what they've done in the past. There are certain criteria that you have to meet in order to encumber. So ultimately, what you can do to encumber is it's something that you have issued a purchase order in the following budget year, but that item was not received. And so you can't pay for it if you don't have it, but you also don't want to mess up your new budget year because this didn't come till after the fact. So after speaking with multiple department heads, this is the list that was come up with. Out of the general fund, there were 2 departments, the first one being finance, $1,850.85, that's to Direct Technologies for a printer. The second being the law enforcement center, $3,799.98, and that is to CyberTech for move of cyber equipment. Water fund, and that is for the highway project, that's the remaining funds in the highway project of $6,417.14. The electric fund had 2 things that they needed to encumber. The first was computer software. That was for 3 months' worth of billing through Landis & Gear for our new meters that we have and the computer software that comes with that. And the second was for the highway project, a total of $15,951.10. And that was for a contract that the city entered into with the state for reinforcing of poles along the 4 lanes and adding some outlets to those poles as well. And then the sewer fund and the remaining for the highway project of the sewer fund at $84,368.43. Grand total the city is encumbering into next year is $118,180.86.
Into this year.
Into this year.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, we're in next year already.
Very good. Comments or questions, council? Hearing none, Chair will call the question by a roll call vote. Councilman Clunt?
Yes.
Councilman Hockett?
Aye.
Councilman Sprinkle?
Yes.
Councilman Schuyler?
Aye.
Councilman Clay?
Yes.
And Councilman Schramm?
Aye.
The ayes have it, and this motion carries. Item number 8, council, do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve first reading of ordinance 1070 recreational trailers.
Is there a second to this motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd second that motion.
Councilman Clunt with the motion to place on first reading, seconded by Councilman Schramm. Floor is open to comment, questions, or point of information, sir.
And Mr. Mayor and Council, I would just remind everybody, this was here once before and was taken back to committee through a tabling process, asking us at the committee level to correct one thing, which absolutely was missing, and that was the fact that there was nothing in here that could talk about how many times the same person or the same trailer could get a permit for these longer periods of time for people to stay in or be living in these trailers. And what I was asked to prepare was make it so that no more than 1 permit in a calendar year for the same vehicle or the same family. So that's now been added to it, and the committee believes it's ready to go, and that's why it's back here for first reading.
Any other comment or question?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Sprinkle, do you feel it's ready to go?
The only question I got is this. How are you gonna enforce 72 consecutive hours when we can't get vehicles off the goddamn street in 72 hours?
I'm not the enforcement.
That's what I'm getting at. It's gonna be
I have
almost
to believe,
impossible.
I have to believe that the city is capable of enforcing it.
This is a permitted process?
It is.
That's
Only the second part of it.
only
The
this?
first 3 days, no permit.
Right.
And I understand your question. How do we know when the first 3 days starts?
Right.
he might get 4 days out of us one time a year.
Or you might get 5.
My golly,
Or 6.
if he gets 5, you're not doing your job.
Well, you can't say that, Brad.
As a citizen. if
As
he
a
gets
citizen,
more
I
than
turned
3
in
days-
vehicles on 7th Street.
Yep.
Took 3 weeks to get them removed.
I
That's
understand.
my point.
But they got removed.
But he's back at it again.
It's, I mean,
Let's focus on this ordinance and timelines. I totally,
very few situations, and I kind of look at it as, you might get by speeding a couple times, eventually you're gonna get caught. I mean, yes, there's a situation here and there, we gotta get something on the books, we've got way bigger stuff to worry about.
I agree. You're not supposed to make U-turns on Main Street either, and yet people do and get by with it.
Right.
So this is the same way. At least we have something we can enforce to stop it from happening in the future.
Councilman Clay, you had comment? Brad?
Commenting on this.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. Chair is going to call the question, which is placing on first reading ordinance 1070 recreational trailer ordinance. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it. This motion will carry. 5-1. Item number 9. Council, do you have a motion that would come from that committee?
I will make, oh, okay. I'll make a motion to hire Dan Furnace as code enforcement officer at the starting wage of $57,616 annually, 6-month probation and full benefits.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Councilman Schuyler with the motion to hire. Councilman Hockett with the second. Floor is open to comments or questions.
What's the name?
Dan
Dan.
Furness.
Dan,
Furness.
Dan Furnace?
Yep.
Was he a city employee?
Yes.
Law enforcement.
What was the?
Floor is open to comments or questions. The name to answer your
No,
question.
I got that, the
The salary?
salary.
57,616.
So, Mr. Jensen, feel free to shut me down at any given particular time, but I don't ask this question because I don't remember. I know he worked for the city at one point in time. Was his departure from the
Do
city?
you need to go into executive session for, that'd be the only way we're gonna discuss that.
Apparently, there's nothing in the file.
Let's make a
can't
motion
discuss
to go
that.
into executive session on personnel.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Councilman Clunt with a motion to go into executive session per personnel, per SDCL 1-25-2 subsection 1. The motion was seconded by Councilman Sprinkle. All in favor of entering executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
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 Ooh, the ayes have it. This motion carries 4-2.
Sorry, guys, keep everybody out.
At 8:19 PM.
Friday?